So what's up?
Well, I kind of just wanted to ask, well, I can start from the beginning of your career, and I kind of wanted to ask you about things that I hadn't seen you be asked about in interviews before. So,
Okay, great.
yeah.
Well, what do you do? What are you just, what, how did, first of all, I'm going to ask you how you got into doing this, interviewing people.
Um, I just kind of decided to try and start doing it. The first person I talked to was Billy Steinberg. I don't know. Do you know who that is?
I do. He's a songwriter. He wrote a lot of the songs. Well, he wrote Like a Virgin, but he also wrote Stand By, I'll Stand By You. He's a good friend. Chrissy Hines, one of my best friends. So he wrote that hit. Yeah. And so he was living with me when they wrote that song.
Oh, that's really cool. He didn't mention that.
Yeah, well, you can tell him I said hi.
And one of the first people I interviewed too was Joyce Heiser. I know that you guys are good friends, so.
Oh yeah, yes, her movie Just One of the Guys was such a yeah. It's all over the Disclosure documentary right now that Laverne Cox did.
Yep.
And they use that as an example of gender, and it's good.
So I can start from your first role would have been the Harvest Home, right?
So right before that, to get my SAG card, I got a television little movie on my 18th birthday, which I was working on my 18th birthday. It was called Having Babies Part 2.
Yeah.
I and it got my SAG card. So that was I did that, and that got my SAG card. And I don't think I ever even saw it, but yeah. And then I was lucky enough to get the Sean Penn's father, Leo Penn, directed the movie Dark Secret of Harvest Home. So yeah, I got that film and was lucky to work with Bette Davis. Boy,
was that a kind of daunting for you to step into that, considering she was in it?
Well, I didn't have that kind of. I didn't think about that. Like I just didn't. But I remember that they had a cocktail party for her downstairs at this kind of crap hotel that we were all staying at, and it was like the wardrobe guy said, Miss Davis is having a cocktail party and you need to be there at 5 o'clock. And I was like, okay. So I just jumped in the shower, put on jeans, and I just kind of ran down there, wet hair and barefoot. And everybody was just white. And she just hugged me and loved me from that moment, because she knew that I was just like, hi, great to give you a look. I didn't have that I wasn't nervous or scared. And we became fast friends, and she was wonderful to me and I loved her. So yeah, so it was a good experience for me.
Yeah, that's cool to hear.
Yeah.
And that right after that, you would have been in a cool TV show that I don't think got much recognition with the Class of '65.
What was that? I don't even remember.
It was Tim Matheson and Annette O'Toole, and yeah, there was a lot of like big people, or went on to be big.
It was a TV show?
Yeah.
Or it was well, I don't even remember being in it. Isn't that crazy? Is there footage of me? I don't even remember it. Isn't that funny?
I'm sure there has to be.
Yeah, it must be, but I've never seen it. I don't really see a lot of my movies. There's many films that I haven't seen, and so then years later I'll see them. Like it took me I saw a rough cut of Destiny Seeking Susan, and then I saw it about 10 years later at a film festival in San Francisco that was showing it, and I sat through it. So I don't like to really sit and watch my movies, I have to say. It's very uncomfortable, and I always hate watching myself. So I don't watch them often. But I have seen, I saw the After Hours. I've seen Baby 2. I like this movie that Richard Shepard directed called The Linguini Incident, which is with David Bowie. Yep. And I actually really like that movie. And so, yeah, but I don't see a lot of them. So I don't even remember that. Isn't that crazy? But I'm old now, so.
I've seen in other interviews where you've said that After Hours was one of the only examples where you liked your performance.
Did I say that? Huh. Well, see, because I could remember all that. I think there's work that I've done through the years that, like seeing it now, like I just recently, my friends really wanted to see, God, this phone, I'm so sorry. It's just, wanted to see the Linguini Incident. And I do like that. I like that. It was a time in my life, and I think it's funny. I like After Hours. I think there's a movie Baby too, and I like a film Executioner Song.
Yep.
I'm gonna say that there's things like that. Yeah, I saw the Executioner Song when it first came out at a screening in Deauville, the film festival in France, and then what else have I seen? And then that was, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's some really bad television movies that I did that, aren't my, you just do what you can do with the material that you have. You do the best you can do,
Mm-hmm. Do you remember really being in Zuma Beach?
I do remember that movie because I met one of my good friends, Kimberly Beck, on that movie.
Yep.
And she plays my cousin, and then Brian Grazer produced that. Brian Grazer, that was one of his first movies he produced. And I remember him telling me the whole story about Splash and the Mermaid, which he also produced later. And he was talking to me because you should play the Mermaid. And it's so funny how life goes. And then like Daryl Hannah, I can't imagine anybody else but Daryl in that movie. And we're also really good friends. It's funny.
And there was that TV series year afterward that Michael Biehn was the star of, Runaways.
Oh yeah. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen the episode you're in, but
yeah.
Yeah,
I know. I don't remember. So long ago. Gosh, how old are you?
I'm 23.
Oh gosh, 23. Okay, so yeah. So if I did that, and then Michael Biehn and I did do a film together about like 11 years ago. We did a film oh my gosh, what the hell is it called? And he was really good, and we were in Canada, and it's, a bunch of people having to hide in a basement, surviving after a nuclear blast in New York. Yeah.
Well, it said that wouldn't your first film role would have been in the American Graffiti sequel?
Yeah, like I don't think I'm really featured in that much, and I actually never saw that. But I don't think I'm in it much, but I was, I guess, a hippie kid or something in a commune, and I don't remember, right, because I didn't see it. But I did meet Mackenzie Phillips on that, and it's just like you do these, you go away and you're away for a couple of months with a group of people, and you form friendships. Either you have lifelong friendships, or you bond really intensely in the beginning and think you're going to have a lifelong friendship and then never see them again, which happens too. But there are, sometimes you have great connections with people, and then I did that. I met Griffin Dunn on a movie called The Wall, about the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto, and it's Holocaust Remembrance Day today, but it's about the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto, and and the Holocaust in that time. It's a 4-hour miniseries. And I met Griffin Dunn on that. He played my brother, and from that, we became great friends. And he produced After Hours and Baby Too.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would kind of explain why you guys seem to be so translate on screen and After Hours after being friends for a few years.
And he's also in The Big Blue. He plays like a cameo in The Big Blue. He plays my boss. He came in and just played a part in that in The Big Blue and Le Grand Bleu in France, and which is a Luc Besson film. And so we're still friends. I just, he came to my birthday last year, and we're still pals. Yeah.
And so when you got
phones, I'm so sorry about these phones. I know it's really distracting. This is what happens when I have to work at home. It's just like so distracting. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. So when you got major part in the Shirley sitcom, was that exciting for you since you were so young?
It was exciting. What it was I remember, because of Zuma Beach, I got a deal with NBC, and this was quite a great deal. It was like quite a lot of money a week to basically I was under contract to them, and one of the things was the show Shirley. So at the time, it was a big deal. It was I think it was fun. It was fun. I really did like Shirley Jones, and I loved her husband, Marty. And she was a sweet woman. Yeah.
I'd read too that you had in an older interview from back then that you had you had memorized a negative review for your character in that sitcom, and that kind of like you kind of like kept that with you for several years. Where you're just
Oh,
like, yeah,
the worst, well, it was a great lesson to never read reviews, good or bad, again, because I've gotten really incredible reviews and I've gotten like terrible reviews, but the one, of course, I still have memorized, and I don't read reviews, good or bad, because it's just, you're not going to remember somebody's opinion of what you did, and it's like you put so much into it, and then someone could just, with their really negative view or words, can just destroy a film. It's awful. It's that they have that much power to be able to do something like that. And so, but it was like, what was it? Rosanna runs the gamut of emotion from A to A, and never was a trip so long. So there you go. What could you do? But it was so funny because I think it was actually David Denby, huge critic, who did that. And then later in life, he was like head of some kind of film festival, and he wanted me to come. And I said, do you remember that review that you wrote about me? It was so damaging and so hurtful, especially for a young person who, like you really like, what is that? It's so painful. And so you just learn how to roll with the punches, and also you can't believe the good press, you can't believe the bad. You just have to do your work. That's the bottom line. It's just, you have to do your work, and that's the most important thing, is just the work, and let the work speak for itself. And everybody's going to have an opinion, and you can't, it's just as dangerous to believe, you're so amazing, you're the best actor, blah, blah, blah. Believe that, because that also can, screw with your head.
And when that show ended, did that kind of set you back at all, or did you just continue persevering, immediately?
No. I actually never stopped working for many, many years. I continue to work. I mean, I just did the L Word, a couple of weeks ago. So, I mean, few and far between, and also just because of aging, people want younger and younger. So it's like, so now I'm moving into, the mom roles, or, I'm sure I'll be grandma soon. But it's just the way it is. This business is, it's not an easy business. I think people think it's all glam and it's amazing. It's very, very hard work, very long hours, really hard on relationships, especially because my work takes me away, like for years on location. So once I had a child, it was a choice, like motherhood or going and leaving your kid, so I of course chose motherhood. And so there were periods where, like, I did take her when she was young, but when she was in school, it was harder to go, especially high school. It was really hard to go on location for a long time. And leave your teenager at home was like, not gonna work. So, you make sacrifices that are the right thing to do. But it's hard because that's my work, that's my livelihood, so it's, my career was never the first and foremost in the front center. And because of that, I think paid a price. Some people, that is the first thing they wake up with, and that is the most important thing to them. And it's kind of hard to do when you have a family and a kid. For me, anyway.
Yeah.
For some people, no. A lot of people just, it is the most important thing to them, and the rest takes the back seat. I explored those themes in a documentary I did called Searching for Deborah Winger. And I interview all these women and ask those questions about balancing your life with your art and your motherhood. So I did that, and I also did another one called All We Are Saying, where I do, ask basically the same kind of questions with musicians. So, yeah. I like interviewing people myself.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask too. What made you come up with the idea to do your own podcast?
Oh, so this because it just goes along with, I just really love interviewing people.
Yeah.
And I always have. I used to do the backstage interviews for Coachella for many years, and so I interviewed like everybody, and I did that for about 6 years. So it just is because of COVID. We're here. We're like, this is just like this is the world we're in now. Is this the Zoom life? And I thought, I could just do a podcast, and I have all these incredible people that will talk to me. I've just done 20. I'm the company that I was doing it with are doing, they're moving on and doing other things. So I don't think I'm doing it with them anymore. So I'm going to move it to somewhere else to figure out where that is. But so far I have 20 really good interviews, and in the future I have a lot of really cool people that are going to do it. So, I want to keep going because I just love doing it. It's actually makes me like one of my favorite jobs that I ever had in my life ever was, the interviewing at Coachella. Love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because aren't you really good friends with Susanna Hoffs?
Yeah, she's she's coming.
Yeah,
she'll be coming on. She's great. That's a good interview. So right now, I just mix it up. I have entertainment people. I have, political people. Yesterday we launched Layla McElwaith, who's a really great activist who's, bringing light to the fact that Pornhub is really dangerous and shows the rape of children day and night. And, people profit off that. And it's a really good interview. So I have lots of people, I have a Dr. Astrid Hagar, who's a child abuse doctor. I have a trauma therapist. I have Frank Figaluzzi of the FBI. Like I have cool people that are going to be coming on. So yeah, I like it. I like doing it. You like doing it. That's why you're doing this, right? Do you want to do a career for this? You want this to be a career?
I would like for it to potentially go in that direction. I am friends with somebody who has one of those like viral million follower pop culture accounts on Instagram, and I have their permission to say that I'm with them when I do interviews. So they sometimes,
that's cool.
Yeah, they've shared like my interview with Dee Dee Pfeiffer on their page and Tawny Katane, and yeah.
Oh, so Tawny, these are the people. So that's was the people you did?
Yeah, I did Tawny a few months ago. And cool. Dee Dee was just I just did Dee Dee Pfeiffer like 3 weeks ago.
And that's Michelle's sister.
Yep.
And that's a hard label to have. Did she talk about that?
Well, they've always had a great relationship, and she's actually been in a bunch of movies that Michelle was also in, so there's never been any kind of
She's super close with her, which is awesome. Yeah. So
right.
Michelle and I used to be so close years ago, and we lost touch. I don't know what happened. She was like, how life happens, but we used to be really, really good friends. Yeah.
Yeah, because you were up for. You guys were auditioning against each other a lot back then, weren't you?
Yeah, there was a period like Ellen Barkin just, said to me, do you remember how it used to go in the beginning? It was, the A-list would shift, by the time, but at one point it was, the offers would go to me, Ellen Barkin, then Michelle. Mm-hmm. And then it became like Ellen Barkin, Michelle, me, it shift. There was we were all like kind of in the same, or it would just be, and we're all, even though we were all so different. But Michelle's great. She's a wonderful actress. Always solid in whatever she does. She's always great.
Was there were there many times where you were down to the wire to get a role that she ended up getting?
Which is Eastwick.
Oh yeah.
There was a period where, it was that, yeah. But I don't have that feeling of competition with, women, especially women I love and admire, where, I really always have, and it's probably saved me in this business, that believe that it's meant to be, that's their path, that's their karma, that's meant to be theirs. And so for me, it was meant to be. It's like, it wasn't, I never oh my God, I would have loved it, and upset about something ever. I think that saved me to feel that way. Because I don't know, that you have to have I think to really stay on top, nobody can in this business. There's a certain amount of ambition and real ambition to keep that, and I never had it, and I love to work. Yeah. I never had the instinct to they even have a funny example is that once I once went to an audition. I always loved Mare Winningham, and apparently I did a movie called Nobody's Fool with Eric Roberts, and it was it changed a lot, but for a long time and I didn't know this, that it was Mayor Whittingham was going to do that role. And I didn't know that. And so that she ended up playing a smaller part, my friend, in this movie that she used one time. And like, I think I found that out later after the fact, and I just felt so bad. I felt it was so sweet that she was still in this movie, and that was a movie that she wanted to do. I always felt bad about that. But once, like, there's times that I've gone into auditions where, and it's been a long time because we don't do that anymore. Basically everything's through Zoom, I guess. And I haven't auditioned a really long time, and I was never a great auditioner anyway. I don't know how I ever got a role because I was never a great auditioner. But I saw, who was it? I think it might have been Mayor, or somebody who really wanted this role, really wanted the role. Was it Mayor or somebody like that? I can't remember who it was. It's terrible, but I just felt so bad, like that I purposely screwed up the audition.
Oh,
And it's terrible. I'm ruining the story because it would be so much better if I knew that. I just remember, I don't remember what the movie was, but I kind of just, they were so, when they saw me, they were like, oh, you're going to get this role. I was like, oh, no. Like, and then I ended up like just not caring enough to get it. And I think they got it. And like, but I can't remember what it is. It's terrible. Oh, I'm getting a little nervous that I can't remember a lot of things these days, but is it just old age, or is it just, I think COVID time is really affected a lot of our brains. How have you been doing with COVID?
Me and my parents have been good. We already went through having it, all three of us.
Oh, you had it.
Yeah.
Do you have the brain fog?
I mean, the only thing that happened to me was I woke up in the middle of the night and I just had a fever break, and I was like super hot even though it was really cold out, because we all got it when it was Halloween. And I only had symptoms for 3 days, but yeah, my mom couldn't taste or smell anything for 2 weeks.
Is she okay now? Does she have like after effects? Does she have fibromyalgia? Or she pains or anything, stomach, anything like that?
No, both of my parents are fine. They never had to be hospitalized for it, fortunately.
Thank God. Thank God. Yeah, it's really been, I've lost friends, lost a lot of people. It's not a joke. And it's been really, this whole, do you have to get vaccinated? Are you, since you've had it, do you have the antibodies? Like, how does that work? Do you know if you still have the antibodies?
I think it might have gone away by now. They might have gone away by now, but we're just in line waiting to get the vaccine.
Yeah, I just got the J&J. My doctor thought it would be better for me, the way my body is and stuff. I know that a lot of people are, it's an intense thing to do. I wish we didn't have to do it, but I think the only way we're going to curb this thing is for everybody, just like, we got to think of it like smallpox. I mean,
right.
There are risks with everything, but I'll tell you, COVID, I've seen people who've had really bad COVID and they haven't really come back from it.
Oh yeah.
You're really lucky that you did.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I got the vaccine, and I have to say, as soon as you get it, you do feel a little freer, even though I go out with it like a hazmat suit anyway, practically. I wear gloves, masks, and a shield anytime I go into a store. And I don't know if I probably will do that on the airplane for the rest of my life. Like, I think that there are so many variants and so many weird things out there right now that we do have to, it's different. The world's different, and we kind of have to live in the new world of this and take it seriously.
Right. So I was about to ask in regards to what you were just talking about getting roles and whatever. Were you already in the lead role of the accused, or how did that work out when Jodie ended up getting it?
They offered, I was supposed to, I think there was a period where they did offer it to me. I was at a big agency at the time, and they also had Kelly McGillis. And then it was like kind of, I just remember, how it's like business people getting in the way of what's going on for you. Mm-hmm. And I would never have allowed what happened to me to happen again, because I allowed the other people to take control of what was happening. But I think my manager was pissed off that they were paying so much money to Kelly McGillis, and I was going to be doing this, part of a woman who was being raped, and have to live in that. Having looked back at all of this, I love Jodie Foster's performance, and she's brilliant in it, and she deserves the Oscar. And I wasn't meant to do it. She was, and so that's the bottom line. At the end of the day, you know, it was hers, not mine. So I always have felt that, you know, and she was fantastic. And it's interesting because the work that I do in activism is all surrounded, you know, it's all about sexual assault and stopping that and you know, in the workplace. And so, you know, to look back to having that movie was basically really ahead of its time, you know, and it's a very important movie for Jodie Foster. I don't know if you saw Mauritanian. Was it the more my brain? She just was in. Oh my gosh, am I like?
Oh, her new movie.
Yes, she's fantastic in it. She deserved you know, she really was fantastic. She deserved a nomination. She's actually extraordinary. Yeah.
And so when you got the Executioner's song, was that since obviously you were playing a real person? I know that you spent like a week with her, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, Nicole. I did. I wonder what happened to her. We spent time together. I flew up to Oregon, where she was living at the time, to spend time with her. And, you know, to play somebody, you feel like you have a responsibility to them to tell their story, to tell their truth, and to, you know, do it right. But, you know, and I think I did, but she gave me something that even the director and Norman Mailer didn't have, which was the journal of Gary Gilmore.
Oh, wow.
And so he said, I know one day they'll make a movie of me, and I'm going to lift the veil and watch. I watched, and this really creepy thing happened was when we were shooting and they did the scene of the trial when the jury says they were guilty. The lights went down, like the lights fell on the people that were playing the jury.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there were no deaths or horrible injuries, but it was scary. It was such a weird thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, he is looking. But he wanted to be, you know, he knew he was guilty. He wanted the death penalty. He wanted out.
And could you kind of personally relate to her since you got married at 17?
Oh, I wasn't married at 17. I got married when I was 19 to a guy,
Oh, okay.
and it wasn't a good relationship, and it was, you know, abusive for me, and it was scary, and I had no business getting married at that young.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, what it was a young girl giving her power over to somebody else, just basically, you know, a narcissistic personality disorder guy. You know, and then when you fall into that can be really toxic and dangerous and set you on a scary path. But I would lucked out that I got to get out of that.
I had read too in regards to that film that you were kind of butting heads with the director because you didn't want to portray her as he wanted you to play her.
In the Executioner song?
Yeah.
What did you read? What happened?
Oh, because I read that he wanted you to play her as a more kind of like slutty character, and you didn't want to do that.
Yeah, and yes, and what was really surprising to me is that he knew her really well. That's how they wrote the book. He knew Nicole, and so and she wasn't.
Yeah.
But they wanted the sexuality, and they put that sexuality in there. And now with all the, it's interesting because that's a perfect example of, you know, what we're fighting. A lot of women are fighting within the industry. We're having rules so that a director can't on a set go, oh, by the way, which I will tell you a story in a minute. You know, can you be naked in the scene, and just spring that on an actor when it wasn't in the script? Mm-hmm. So many times that would happen a lot in those days, and you just didn't know how to say no. I had an incident with one of the biggest directors in the world. I did a movie called SLB. It was with Blake Edwards. Yep. Blake Edwards directed the Tiffany's and the Pink Panther movies. Great director. It had the biggest movie stars: William Holden, Robert Preston, Julie Andrews, like huge movie stars. It was a big movie. It was a break, and I'm just playing a hitchhiker. and his daughter was the other hitchhiker. And so when I'm on the set, you know, and I have to come in my bikini. Of course, I had to audition in the bikini, so we knew that it was about that. And you know, I was endowed in those days. I still am, but you know, and I was young. I was 19, and so he said, yeah. So like everybody get in your place. Okay, so yeah, you know what? The when you walk in, take the bikini top off. It doesn't work. And I was like, what, Mr. Edwards? And I said, really? You need to take my shirt off? Like being like no top? Like I was so flipped out. And he goes, yeah. Do you have a problem with that? I said, well, I didn't know I was going to be naked. And then he was like, oh my God. And he said to the producer color agent, let's get another actress. Like it was terrible. And I said, no, okay, I'll do it. Like you get put in that kind of position. And that's what we're trying to do at the Screen Actors Guild now is like, you know, the producers can't do that anymore. There are rules that you can't do that to an actor. It's not right. It's like, and it happened to me. And I remember the consequences later was, you know, they ended up cutting it, by the way. That's what's so crazy. After doing it, it's like, did he just do it for the audience to see, or he just wanted to make sure that Julie Andrews, who also took her shirt off, his own wife, was the only one that had her boobs. I don't know what the deal was, but it was cut, which is very funny. But it was, you know, I remember my mother just being so upset that he put me in that position. And then that guy I was married to, you know, ended up beating the shit out of me because I did it. Wow. So it was, yeah. So it's just like no director, producer, or anybody should intimidate an actor on that level about doing nudity or doing nude scenes when it wasn't agreed to beforehand. So now we have these things. We have people called the intimacy coordinators, where it's completely discussed before. You know exactly what you're doing when you go in. And I've just done it for the first time. Work with the intimacy coordinator on the L Word. I just came back, you know, and yeah. So and it's, you know, I did what I agreed to do, and that's it. And if you have an agreement beforehand, I know my daughter did a little movie. And they came, you know, they wanted her to, at the last minute, take her shirt off, and she's like tied up and crying hysterically. And of course, it's real tears because she was like really humiliated. But they had her do it at the last minute. She was just so upset. You know, like, what are you doing? And she didn't know that she could say, you know, that's not okay. That's not what we do. But you know, actors have to be. Then they say, okay, you're really difficult because you're. I was just talking to Barbara Williams about this, who was married to Tom Hayden, and you know, in her young career, she was like having all these big, you know, opportunities, and because she said, I don't want to do that, you know, they you know, put a little X mark next to her name, you know, and saying that she was difficult and don't hire her. So you can get from being not even just standing up for yourself. They say, oh well, she's on a blacklist, you know.
Yeah, I had a similar conversation with Joyce about that, since she had to do that one like brief nude scene in just one of the guys, but she was friends with the director, and it was a female director, so she kind of just like walked her through it, and it wasn't anything, you know, scary or anything like that.
Yeah, no, she you know, she did a great job in that movie.
I was gonna, to the same year of SOB, do you remember being in Gorp?
I do remember being in Gorp. And it was why I remember it so vividly is because there were 2 summer camps shooting films at the same time. Films were being shot at 2 summer camps across the way from each other. One was at Gorp, and the other one was Little Darlings.
Oh yeah.
And that's where I met Christy McNichol and Tatum O'Neal, who I love. And I just did a little movie with her daughter, Emily McEnroe, and she's wonderful. And but I became friends with Tatum on the movie because we all stayed in the same hotel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did
you get along with did you become friends with Fran or Dennis?
So Fran, and of course Fran Drescher, I absolutely adored, and her husband Peter at the time, and she was 21 and they had just gotten married, and or they were getting married or something like that. They were great. So I was friends with her for years. I run into her through the years, and we're very happy to see each other. And then Dennis, yeah, I've known Dennis for years. You know, we're different politically these days, but you know, he's a good actor. He's a really good actor.
I really hadn't seen, even though I thought you were great in the role, I thought nobody had really brought up A Long Way Home.
Oh my gosh, that movie with Timothy Hutton.
Yep.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I was really good friends with Tim during that, and I went to the Golden Globes with him. I think it was a year. Yeah, I remember going to the Golden Globes with him as his date. We were never boyfriend and girlfriend or anything. We were just
Oh.
good friends, but just pals. But there was never anything sexual with him. But it's so funny, like the women that he was with, I like Deborah Winger. I made my movie Searching for Deborah Winger. She was always my favorite, and he was, with her, and they have a child together. And then Angelina Jolie and him were together, and I did a movie called Hell's Kitchen with Angelina, where I played her mother.
Yep.
Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
Did you see that? You did? That's kind of a trippy movie. I know Martin Scorsese really liked that movie.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you were also in another kind of similar emotional headspace kind of TV movie at that same time with Johnny Belinda.
Yeah. So you have the like the dates and times and years at the same time. So I did Johnny Belinda. I don't know how old I was. I must have been 22, 20. Well, I don't know.
It was 82.
Was it?
Yeah.
So I was doing that. Yeah. And that was Anthony Page, who was a big theater director, famous British theater director. And I actually really, and that's right. Dennis is in that. Dennis Quaid's in that. Yeah. Yeah.
I know
Yeah,
that was one of like Richard Thomas's first
movies outside of the Waltons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder where he is now.
And so when you got after you did Baby It's You and everything, and like with how regarded your performance was in that movie, did you were there like parts of it that you like and didn't like, or even considering the praise?
So I know that Baby It's You and Executioner song came around like back to back. So they were two completely different performances.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how, and then that led to, I think, Death After Hours, because Martin Scorsese really loved me in Executioner song, and then called me up and wanted me to do After Hours. And of course got in touch with me because of Griffin Dunn, because he was a producer on it. There was a lot of praise, I guess, from Executioner song. There was an Emmy nomination and all that, and with Anne Margaret and Barbara Stanwyck, so I remember that being like, I knew going in, like there's just no way in hell that I was going to win, but it was neat to be, with these extraordinary women, especially women that I admired.
It seemed like with Baby It's You that you must have had really good chemistry with Vincent.
We did. We had a really good chemistry. I've run into him through the years, but and we were good pals. Kind of lost touch with him. You'd think that we'd be friends for life, but I did lose touch with him. But like I ran into him maybe 10 years ago at Paramount or something, and we got talking in the parking lot, like, hi, and talked for like 45 minutes. How are you?
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't seen him.
And since that's obviously set in the 60s, did you have to rely on a certain thing to get you kind of in that headspace that you really were there, like music or anything like that?
Well, I always use music all the time for everything when I work. So, because I love music. So I, at the time there were like, Walkmans, with the cassettes, and those great speakers. I remember the first time I heard a Walkman, and I think it was Tom Conti when we were doing The Wall, who had a Walkman, and with the sound, and it was like, oh my gosh, the sound was so amazing. Sony Walkman. So, and now, everything's digital, and you got Spotify and all this. It's a whole different world. But you had to like lug your, I would actually have a little suitcase filled with all my cassettes for my music. So yeah, I always use music I'm using music with everything I do, and music for a scene, and I've always done that.
That would have been around the same time too that you started dating Steve Porcaro.
Yeah.
Right.
No, actually, Baby It's You was the breakup of him.
Oh, really?
So I'd been with him, and we broke up, and I went and did that movie. It was, it just was. I'm really good friends with his daughter, and we're pals. But it just wasn't the right relationship for me.
Is that a long-standing rumor that the song is about you, or is it not?
Well, I mean, all I can tell you is that I was around in the studio, and David Page said, come here, I got to play something for you. And he played and sang the song for me. So it was definitely inspired by me. And, but I think, there's years, I don't know why they would say it's not. I'm on their picture disc, which it's a picture disc. If you can find Rosanna, and it's me. So,
okay.
For years and years and years, they kind of used that when I was kind of in my whatever moments, and and then used that, like I'm on the picture disc. They played me the song. I was never with David Page as a boyfriend girlfriend, but I was inspired. I inspired the song, apparently. Yeah.
And since so many members of Toto played with Michael Jackson at that time, you were friends with him, weren't you?
Yeah, he thanks me on the Thriller album. It says
Cool.
Steve and Rosanna Porcaro, but we weren't married. But I was in the studio a lot. In fact, I did the na 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 on that song na 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 on his song, the background of the girls in the background, but I don't have credit for it, but I did do a track of that, and we were pals. We were friends for a long time, and then very sadly, it got strange with all the accusations of his sexual assault accusations, and some people don't believe it, and I know the doctors that worked with the survivors.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do believe that abuse begets abuse. So usually, someone who does a horrible thing like that to children had that happen to them as kids, and they end up repeating that pattern. So I think he's a great artist. He was a great artist. He was wonderful. He used to call me Tinkerbell. He would bring me little presents. We were really good friends, and it was really sad. And it was very daring and important for Oprah to expose that. And she took a big chance, because people really attacked her for doing it. But, it's horrible what happened. And a lot of people, would say it's lies, and that's what they do. I mean, we see it every day. People usually protect the predator and the people that come out and talk about it. I just dealt with it myself with the Harvey Weinstein stuff. So,
right.
And they go after the accusers.
And did you, what was the process of being in the music video for Liberian Girl?
Oh, no, I just found that letter that he wrote to me the other day, and like a bunch of stuff. I got it framed, he just thanked me very much for being a part of it. And we were just, it was fun. Just like all these people, and it was, sitting there, and Spielberg did direct that, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I forgot that. Isn't that funny?
Did you stay friends with Steve
Porcaro?
Yeah.
Or yeah, we're friends. But I don't hang out with him or see him or anything. But if I ran into him, we'd be like, "Hey, how you doing?" He's a film composer now, and he's really good. Really good.
Another movie that was from '84 that, again, I hadn't ever seen mentioned that I thought was good was The Parade.
Oh yeah, gosh. What was great about that? Well, first of all, Michael Learned was in there, but Geraldine Page,
Yeah.
Geraldine Page, one of the greatest actresses ever, and she played my grandmother. And I don't know where I shot that. Somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Forgot where that was shot. I know I had to go to another state. I don't think it was Ohio. I don't know where it was.
Kansas.
Oh, Kansas. Maybe it was Kansas. Is that where it was? Something like that. I can't remember, but I remember going to, the middle of nowhere and shooting this thing with her. And she was wonderful.
Did you get to interact much with Maxwell Caulfield?
I did, and he was married to remember the nanny and the professor, Juliette Mills.
Oh yeah, I forgot they were married.
Yeah, they were married. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, he was very nice. I wonder what happened to him. Everybody's nice, but I was Michael Learned and Geraldine were who I was really into talking to a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, was it Frederick Forrest in that?
Yeah, he was your dad.
Yeah, Frederick Forrest played my dad. What am I talking about? Yes, he was wonderful too. Yeah. That I like to see that. Have you seen it? I haven't seen it in years. I don't think I ever actually even. I think I may have seen that. I do. I remember seeing something but I don't remember it. But I'd like to watch it. I thought there were some good moments in there.
Yeah, well, a lot of those kind of movies are on YouTube, and
Are they?
Yeah,
Wow.
even your episode of the ABC After School Special is on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that I remember that being. I'm gonna move this because I'm just so my back is coming out. What's going on? Oh wow, yeah, that was. Mom and Dad can't hear me. I remember that. Mom and Dad, sorry, I'm trying to move this. This is this Zoom life is just not for me. Oh my gosh, yeah, that was. I had to learn sign language for that, a little bit of sign language. And the woman who played my mother was Amy Irving, Steven Spielberg's first wife, mom, Priscilla Pointer. Yeah. And I think she even got me an audition because of that movie. I met Steven Spielberg for Indiana Jones, but I was too young. He just thought I looked too young. At the time, when I was 18, I could play 13, 14, so I looked a lot younger than I was. And that's how Mia Farrow, was too. She was older, but always looked young. So, but now I look old. So wait, I'm going to try to make with this. I just don't know why this is not staying still. I have to stand. Finally. Anyway.
That just made me think, because I'm not sure if you know that Matthew Modine, one of his first movie was Baby It's You.
I do know it was his first, and it was also whose first movie it really was at 17, Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey plays one of the guy, one of the kids going to the dance, and he was 17 at the time.
Did you really?
Yeah, Matthew Modine was great in that movie.
Did you really? Did you really get to talk to them, or do you even remember
Yeah, no, we did, but then through the years now, because especially with everything that's gone on with the Weinstein stuff, he was very involved in changing the rules in the Screen Actors Guild, and he was running for president of the Screen Actors Guild. And I had the hiccups. I wish he won. He would have been great.
I know that obviously you've been asked everything about that you could be asked about Desperately Seeking Susan, but I was.
What was it like to work with Madonna?
No, I was gonna ask if either one of you guys had any input on the original ending being used instead of what was used.
We didn't have any input because they didn't use it. I wish they would have, because what was great about that ending was, I wish they'd recut it and do that now. It would probably, if it had been made now, it would have that ending. Is that the women didn't end up with the guys. The original ending was them going off on an adventure together.
Right.
And you see them in camels, which we shot, camels in the desert, going off and they're not with the guys. They just go off with each other and go on an adventure together. And that, I thought that was such a great ending. And so I was very disappointed. I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't watch it. I was like, because I thought it was going to be that ending. And then they just kind of made it, okay, you know, tying it up with the guy, ending up with the guys at the end. Lame.
I haven't really seen you talk about if there's any kind of story with the photo shoots that you guys did with Herb Ritz for Rolling Stone.
Well, Herb, I had done a photo shoot for Rolling Stone before, and we had it was like a real intense, he was trying to recreate Rebel Without a Cause. Mm-hmm. And so I had worked with him and loved him. And so I requested him to do our poster.
Okay.
And so they said, okay, great. So this has always been like, I don't know why Anna Wintour said that she introduced them, but it's actually not true. She met on Madonna met Herb on this shoot before the Vogue thing that they did, but I watched it happen. Like it was like they were just, it was his camera and her amazing, you know, enigmatic face and eyes, and they just fell in love with each other. So it's like, and they, you know, they worked together for years. They were a great team. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is a couple years after that, but I just watched again your segment of Amazon Women on the Moon. I think that's really funny.
It is funny that I love doing that. I have to, all these things that you're talking about, I should actually watch. I've never, because that one, Michelle Pfeiffer's husband at the time was Peter,
yep,
who directed that, and they were married. And I think that was because of my relationship and friendship with Michelle. He you know, knew me enough to say, "Will you read this and we do this?" I said, "Sure, let's go, let's play. It's fun." Yeah, and Steve Guttenberg, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Gosh.
It's kind of like how it's very true to kind of how dating can be now. Like, oh, let's do a compatibility test. Like,
it's true that's like was kind of fantasy, and now it's like it really is that. Now there's like, let's do a background check and make sure that you're not with a psycho killer. So.
And then you got to be in a really cool horror movie with Black Rainbow.
Yeah, you know, I was doing New York Stories with Martin Scorsese, and I had already done, you know, After Hours with him, but New York Stories with Nick Nolte and Martin Scorsese, and he said that he really loves this director, Mike Hodges, and he thought that I would like him, and he's the one that gave me the script on the set. He said, "Will you take a look at this? He would like you for the lead. I think it would be a great film for you, and you should try it. You should do it." Mm-hmm. So like, it's like, okay, Marty, you know, like whatever you say. And I ended up doing, but I literally went from, I think I went back. I just had super, my hair was that really, really blonde hair that was in long hair in blonde hair in New York Stories, and then went to North Carolina to shoot this movie and dyed my hair your color, like dark. Oh. And then I had to go do something afterwards. So the person tried to dye my hair back blonde, and didn't know what they were doing. You have to go do that really special, like someone who knows what the hell they're doing and knows how to do color.
Yeah.
And my hair just started coming. It just came like out, like it just was. It was just fall. It was just, it burnt the shit out of my hair. So I had to cut my hair really short. It was really awful. I remembered that. It was like, what happened to my hair? It was terrible. Yeah. So those are the, you know, stupid things that can happen to you when you don't go to professionals to do things like that. You know, like you can't mess with chemicals on your hair. You know?
Right. And do you have a preference for playing darker roles opposed to lighter roles?
You know, it's funny because I think that when I'm in a role, you really do take on the essence of the character you're playing in some way, shape, or form. And so, you know, so if you're in a dark space and you're like, that's why I kind of always stayed away it's like we were talking about Michelle doing the movie with Nicholson and Cher and Susan Sarandon, I think, which is at Eastwick. Like maybe it was meant to be, because like I pretty much stay away from like satanic dark stuff. Like I don't really want the energy of that in my life. I think it brings on something, like for me, like I'm too vulnerable, and I feel like it would harm me in some way. So I don't really like that. And I have had a lot of those movies come to me, and I just don't want to do them. So wait, what was the question? I just forgot. I'm rambling.
Oh, I asked if you had a preference between darker roles.
Okay. Yeah. So I like doing both. It just depends on the director and the script and throwing myself into something. But I like doing dark roles, but I'm really careful of how much do I need to throw myself, like basically you have to throw 100% of your life into what you're doing when you're working. And so, like how is that going to affect marriage, home, to motherhood, like all those things I would take into consideration too. And I would love right now in my life to do a really fun comedy. I would just love to I like comedy. I'd love to find something that is, like I love black humor, like dark humor that's funny, but kind of dark. I would love, like for instance, like the show Fleabag. Fleabag. I think something like that. It's just so beautifully written. It's kind of deals with life. It's really super dark and funny. Like I'd love to find something like that. And she's such a great writer. I love her. Yeah.
Well, you did have a small part, but I liked your role in Buffalo 66, and that's kind of like that in that vein.
Exactly. Well, so originally, there was a period that Vincent had wanted me for that role for a long time. And then I got this movie, Hell's Kitchen, and I was doing that. And he was kind of like bummed out that like, but I can't, it made so much more sense and was so much better than it could ever have been with me. Because of wait, my brain, of the actress who played it and who I love, and I'm spacing right now. Who played Christina? She was young, and it was like it worked so much better with her. It would have been kind of weirdly pitiful because I was a little older at the time, and and her playing this young innocent role, Christina Ricci. I can't imagine anybody other than Christina doing that role. So Vincent, had a vision. He's a really good director. We don't agree in politics whatsoever. But he is a good director, and I did like doing that movie.
And I do want to ask too about, obviously your character in Crash is unlike anything that you ever did, and that's such a insane, interesting movie too.
Yeah, and the thing about that was that I was filming at the exact same time, going back and forth between that movie and Gone Fishing with Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
And my daughter was one. She just learned how to walk in Florida, and then I had to flow her up to Canada. Oh my gosh, it was such a that talk about weird and like being in the space of darkness and stuff. So we shot up in Toronto. And then I had to go back to Florida. So I was going, to finish that movie. So I did them at the same time, and they were quite different. My daughter learned how to walk in Florida when we were shooting Gone Fishing, and they had put me up into this condo, with a little yard outside, and she was learning how to walk, and an alligator came running across the lawn. Like there was a little kind of swampy, like I had to scoop her up. I remember running inside, like flipping. I said, please, you have to get me out of here. I'll go anywhere, but get me out of this place. There's alligators here. It was the scariest thing. So they did move me. And, but I mean, she really could have been eaten. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. And then flew up to do Crash. And I just remember in Crash, staying in Toronto, and on TV, like late at night TV, they just had like just like the weird, like I'm not like the weirdest porn that was on TV, like on television. I was just like, and it was so kind of weirdly shocking and weird. And I just remember this one night, you know, where I had real insomnia, is I, you know, and the baby was up and I had to go to work early in the morning, and just like, and so I put her finally to bed, and this thing, it just came on, and I was just like, what the fuck is this? And I realized at this moment, because I don't like porn, I don't like watching it, but I watched it, and it was the character, my character, watching this weird, like this weird dark thing, and I realized that's what was going on. Is I just remember, like, this is just like the weirdest stuff that's on, you know, just on TV. It was nuts, and it was a long time ago, and so I just remember, like, for like an hour, kind of just being mesmerized and watching this weird porn, and it was it was the character. It was the character that was like in this stuck dark world energetically. And I just remember that being part of of her going the next day to work and being in this kind of funky, weird vibe. And just to the point where how much those kinds of things of energetically, that kind of darkness can affect you. I remember my daughter coming to the set because I was breastfeeding at the time. And she pushed me away. It was like she could feel the energy that was like, this is yucky. So it's like, oh, like my baby, like everything's okay. Like just like it, you really do, when you, if you're an actor that, you know, throws themselves into something, there you can become, just even energetically, it's hard to shake. So that's one of the things as a mother, it was like, you know, I don't need to do real super dark things right now. You know, like, it's just not healthy for me or my baby. So, you know, there was a period where I kind of just said no to a lot of things that were dark.
And what was that like, shooting that scene where you and James Spader are in the car and, you know, making out with each other?
So there was a moment where David Cronenberg, because I was breastfeeding, and I was really breastfeeding in life, and they were just over there and like talking to each other, and intensely I said, what's going on? Like, oh, because I literally this is what happened. I flew in, God, I was shooting on the other movie, Gone Fishing, flew in to Toronto. I think I literally may have had to take a red eye, so I was there in the morning kind of vibe, and immediately went into that scene. Like, I had to go put the costume on, you know, the whole thing. Hi, James Spader, we hadn't met really, and go right into that scene. So how funny actors' life are, and so they they were conversing, and I said, what's going on? And Cronenberg comes over, he goes, we're just wondering if you're going to lactate. And I was like, what? Like, I said, do you want to? Like, what does that mean? Like, really? And then I said, oh wow. And it's not cut, it's cut in the film, but like I squeezed my boob and milk just literally sprayed up. It was pretty trippy. And I think maybe James Spader was really freaked out. He ended up cutting that out of the movie, but he sent me that, and I don't know, I don't have it anymore because I don't know, but Cronenberg sent that to me, and I said, David, you've cut out the most significant thing I've ever done on film. But anyway, oh God.
I actually just watched with my mom a couple weeks ago. I watched Trading Favors.
Yeah, what is that?
That's where you and Peter Green and
whoa. Oh, and that was Sandra Locke.
Yeah.
Sandra Locke directed that movie. You know, that was wow, there was talk about someone who got blacklisted. Oh my God, because of her relationship with Clint Eastwood. And so they just, you know, destroyed anything that she tried to do, including that movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, but she was really wonderful to work with, and she passed away not so long ago. It was very sad. And that was, yeah, I think my kid was like 2 or something then. That was hard. I remember we literally had to, like, it was a low budget movie and we had to get stuff done and they were really behind. And one day we shot for 26 hours. Like we just kept going. I've never done that in my life, but I said, okay, I'm in, I'll do it, because we had to finish. I said, let's just get it done. And you know, if you can pay your crew, I won't charge you for the quadruple time or whatever it was. I said, let's just get it done. But I remember that was really long and busy.
And that was.
I never saw that movie. What, is it good?
Yeah.
Or is it not good?
No, I thought it was good. You had a really fun scene with where you're stealing stuff in a gas station and Cuba Gooding Jr. is the cashier and he's yelling at you to like get out.
Yeah, I got it. Good. Is that on YouTube? Because I've never seen that movie. I
Yeah.
should see it. I think it just kind of, it came and went, or did it ever come out? I don't even know whatever happened to it, but it's one of the movies I never saw. But I just do remember the experience of that, and I forgot that Cuba was in that. Yeah, he was sweet.
I also watched a while ago. I watched Sugartown.
I do like Sugartown. That's Allison Anders, and that was a great experience because a lot of those actors are friends of mine, and so we all. And my brother Richmond is in that movie too.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really a wonderful actor. And yeah, I loved Allison Anders, and that was a fun movie. And John played my husband, and then Duran Duran, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a lot of years. I only saw that once a long time ago, I think. Did I see the whole thing? And yeah, because I remember seeing scenes with Beverly D'Angelo and Michael DeBar. Yeah. I'd like to rewatch that. Was that a good movie? Did you like it?
Yeah, it was fun to see everybody that was in it, like Ali Sheedy and.
Yeah, Ali. Yes, I love Ali. We're friends. I haven't seen her in a long time, but we talked recently, and and something just happened. Like I almost did this television show, but then it ended up being that they wanted to go a different way, and they went with Ali. So I was really happy that it was Ali. It was exciting. Yeah, it's good for her. So.
On that same topic, because Joyce was talking about how she did a pilot with you that wasn't picked up.
She wrote a pilot for me, which is hilarious. And as we had just kind of really funny. Basically, it's almost like, like you see the show, which I love, Better Things. I love Pamela Adlon, but it was kind of before that and exactly that vibe, way before her show. It was an actress in town, basically, taking the essence of me and my life and funny stuff that would happen. And I love that Joyce is a really good writer. She's got a bunch of screenplays and she's really good. And we did it, and it's such a shame that it didn't happen because it could have been really good. It was funny.
Yeah, well, it would have been cool. It would have been cool to see her be on camera again too.
Yeah, and she plays my best friend. Yes, we had her in it. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. She was the producer and the writer, so it was nice that she could also be in it.
And I do, this going backwards a little bit, but I do want to ask, since obviously with your character in Pulp Fiction, that's also a really dark and also not like anything else you've done. What was your approach to that character?
I was just talking to my daughter about the piercings, and I said, because I had my piercing in my nose. She goes, "You had a pierced nose?" I said, "I did it for that movie." Mm-hmm. It closed up. It really hurt, and it was just I just did it. The one piercing. I didn't do all the piercings that she had, but I pierced my nose and let it close up. And Quentin rehearses like a play, so that was good. So we really kind of had it. He does like everything. I threw in the, when I call Eric Stoltz pig, I threw that in because he's not like super improvisational. Everything is very specific. Every move and the photographer, the cinematographer. I worked with a cinematographer on a movie afterwards, about 3 years later, that he directed in New Orleans with Balthazar Getty, and Michael Madsen was in it. Another movie that I've never seen, but was it the Andrei Shikula or something? is the cinematographer directed a film, and I did it.
Mm-hmm. And once the 2000s started, the year 2000 was the whole 9 yards.
Oh gosh. Well, that's a perfect example of something. Whoa, like I think that was like right after, that was after, kind of after the Weinstein incident, and here's this movie that was a huge hit, and I got like slaughtered in the press. Like they just destroyed me. I got the worst reviews. The movie was a huge hit, but they hated me. And one of the criticisms was the accent, which people don't understand, is like a French Canadian accent is very, very different from a French accent, like a regular, accent. So I worked with somebody regularly, and it was a French Canadian accent. So they kept saying I was like Pepe Le Pew doing a shitty accent, but it's actually the way they talk. Like they, in France, it's like this, and then it's like that. They talk like that. They talk like that. And it's a very, very different accent. When I worked with somebody and it was a French Canadian accent, but I got slaughtered. I don't know. That's what I was told. Warner Brothers sent me all the reviews, and I could see, glowing for the film. And then I saw just like peaks. It was like one horrible view, and I just remember throwing them all in the fire. I didn't look. And then I was told by, management, you got the worst reviews you've ever gotten in your life. And it was like very, very weird, but or maybe I'm just terrible in the movie. I don't know. And maybe it's true. Or, there was a period where Weinstein had a lot of power and could, pay people off. Who the hell knows? I mean, it happened to a lot of us who had run-ins with him.
Mm-hmm.
And where it was suddenly going to be like a takedown of somebody's career for saying no to him.
Right.
I mean, I was lucky I got out and, relatively unscathed, just physically. I was not raped, but God knows I could have been.
Definitely, yeah. And the year after that was Big Bad Love. You got to work on with Deborah on that too.
Yeah, and that's right. I did Big Bad Love, and I went to Mississippi to shoot that. She put all her own money into funding that movie for her husband to direct.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I loved her. I haven't seen her in years, but we were pals too. I haven't seen her in a long time.
And since in the 2000s too, you started going back to doing a lot of TV work. Obviously, like Will and Grace. I'm sure that was a lot of fun to be on.
It was fun to do that show. Yeah, like later it was just like, get what you can and pay your bills, and sometimes like, okay, a TV movie that's going to pay me a lot of money up in Canada, I'm going to say yes to. But it was, I didn't, sometimes, you don't have the freedom to be able to pick and choose and say like, wow, this is, can pay my kid's school, because she was in private school at the time. And where I was at, there wasn't a great public school to send her anyway. So I took some movies that I'm not really proud of, but happy that I had work and was able to pay my bills.
And then you had obviously the lead and another big part in the What About Brian?
Oh yeah, What About Brian? So yeah, and he's married now. Barry Watson and I played his sister, and he's married to Natasha Gregson.
Yep.
Wagner. They're married. They have a child named Clover. After her mother is Natalie Wood, and her daughter's name is Clover after the Inside Daisy Clover. He was sweet. It was good. That was we shot at Warner Brother lot. Was it the Warner Brother lot? And no, I think it was Disney. Anyway, it was good. It was sad because people really loved that show, but the people that ABC at the time, the guy who was running it, just didn't. And so he kept moving it. It would have this night. It would be like Monday night and get a good rating, and people loved it, and then he'd move it to a Wednesday. Like he just didn't like the show, and kind of at the end of the day, they just let it die. It's really sad because people love that show.
Did you have a preference at that time too? Did you like working on sitcom more than film?
No, I love working on a film, but just now I just did the L Word. I love. It's really rare when you can work in the town that you live in and go to work at a studio in Los Angeles and come home and be with your family. Like that is great. It's harder to go away, for 6 months at a time and do a television series in another state. Pretty hard to maintain a marriage, and that's very hard to do. It's hard on your relationships. A lot of people do it, but and it's few and far between. If I had the opportunity, it's something so amazing, I will do it. But there's a toll that's in the price to be paid when you're away, and it's harder to do.
And more recently, you got to be in Sideswiped a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, so Carly Craig came to me and really wanted me to play her mom in this show, and that's a perfect example of something that was like it's still like 60 million like on it, and on YouTube they can watch it, and it got great reviews, and for some reason they just didn't pick it up. They didn't, and we don't know why. People loved it, and it's sad, and I don't know. That was fun. That was I actually loved doing that because it was in town, and I would go to work and go in and do my thing, and I didn't have to carry the show, even if I would be in the episode and, maybe work 2-3 days a week. It was awesome. It was so great, and make a great living and have fun and laugh. And it was good. It was really, I liked doing that show. Yeah. I would love to do that again, something like that. And I wish they were, because for some reason YouTube, even though we didn't understand why, we don't get it. So, because people loved it.
That same year too, you were in Billionaire Boys Club.
Yeah, I went to New Orleans and just did it as a favor for the producers who are friends of mine. They said, would I come in and just cameo? So, I'm just in there and play Emma Roberts' mom. And I just came in and out. The producers, Cassie Elways and Holly, they were friends of mine, and they just asked me to come in, and so I did. It's nice when people call you and say, will you do something? I'm going to direct a film, which I'm looking forward to. Yeah.
I thought it was cool that you were got to be on Ratched too.
Yeah, except that I'm hardly in it. It's so funny because they asked me to do it in January a couple years ago, the year before last, and I didn't shoot it till July, and so I wasn't able to take anything until then. And it was supposed to be 4 episodes, and then by the time they got to me, they had so many characters, so many people, and he works the way he works, and you're just lucky to get to work with Ryan. But it was hard. I was like, what happened to the scene that I did with Sarah Paulson? It was like so chopped up. I was like, I couldn't even watch it. I was like, okay, they just cut the shit out of it, and it's too depressing. So it is what it is. But that happens all the time, and you can't really take it personally, although it was hard not to. It's like, did you just not like me? Because we had a really great scene, and it could have gone to someplace really cool, but they just decided not to explore that character. They had so many other characters that were really more important to their storyline, and mine wasn't. And so, ultimately it's just that's the price you pay. You just don't know, but I was hoping that it could turn into something more than it ended up being. So I was really sad about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, even despite that, it was still cool for me, especially to see you in a horror kind of project again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Sarah Paulson's really great. It is really creepy, that show, isn't it? It's so good. Yeah, I would have liked to have been more in this next season, but I wasn't asked, and it is what it is. I don't know. Who knows?
It looks like
what can you do?
It looks like you have a few things that aren't out yet that are in post-production, or like something called Aramingo Avenue.
Oh, well, actually, that's really another thing that friends of mine, a producer who I'm going to end up working with in my movie that I'll direct, just asked me to come in because it's Sean Penn and Robin Wright's daughter and son are in that movie, and my own daughter Zoe is in that movie, and she's really cool in it. So really what was happening is we were in the middle of COVID, quarantine and everything. She was in Philadelphia working, and they said, would I come in and do a day, and would I come in? And basically it was like, I'll go visit my daughter, go do this great scene with Hopper Penn, who I already had done a movie with called Puppy Love. And I loved working with him. He's a sweetheart. And so that's what happened. So I'm just in there doing a scene, and it's my kid's movie, Zoe, who's a great actress.
Is there anything coming out that you can talk about that you're in or a part of, or?
I don't really have any future stuff right now. I just have things that people talk to me about, but there's nothing that I'm in right now. I do have a movie that I'm going to direct that I'm looking forward to, and when that happens, and that could be really cool. So we'll see. But right now, like, the whole world is in flux. Just having worked with, and I'm producing a television show. I do have a show that I'm producing with Gail and Susanna Grant wrote, and that's exciting. But as a producer, so producer, director, and I'd love to be acting and more, and hopefully I will. And if not, then I had a good run. That's where I'm at. It's like, okay, I do it because I love it. And when I'm very, very happy when I'm working, I realize I'm so much happier when I'm working than when I'm not, because I feel like sometimes super useless. That's why I did the podcast. That's why I have to keep myself busy, with some kind of thing to feel creative, or else I'll wither and die. That's how I feel.
And back when you were working on movies like After Hours, did you get a sense that it would become, something so kind of iconic and with a cult following and stuff?
I never thought that way of any of these things, but I've been fortunate that I'm in a few of them, that were cult followings, do have cult followings. And, After Hours is one, and Pulp Fiction is one, and even Desperately Seeking Susan, have those kinds of, it still stands that this, how many years ago did I do this? Way before my daughter was born. So it's like 33 years or something ago, or 30, it was Desperately Seeking Susan, like a long time. Mm-hmm. So that it's still on, and people, there's a whole new audience and young kids seeing it now,
Right.
Fun. Like your age. My gosh, you're a young kid, but you're so maybe do you think this is something that you want to, do in your life, of being an interviewer, do it, on television, as, like in that way? Would you want to do that, or is this just a hobby for you?
Well, I would like to, I would definitely embrace it if it went in that direction. So, but for now, it's really just been people that I'm personally a fan of, and trying to get them to do interviews about stuff that they haven't really been asked about. And so it's fun, but what were you going to say?
No, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I just, like for now, it's really just something that I'm not looking at as maybe being serious or like as a job, but I would love for that to happen if it does.
Did you go to college?
No, I took voice acting. I went to like voice acting school because that was my dream job. So I did that.
Because you have like a baritone voice. You're like a really deep voice. So you could do cartoons, and you're talking about voiceovers. That's a great job.
Yeah.
So have you put stuff down on tape and submitted your, doing things like that? Because you do have a very interesting voice and very deep, and you could do something.
Oh, thanks. So yeah, well, because when you did that class, you got to keep all your, like you did stuff in the class, and then they would email you the file because there's an audio engineer right next to you, and I still have it. It's just one of those things where it's like you don't like listening to yourself.
Well, or you have to submit it to a voice agent that can, get you those things.
Right. Well, Minneapolis is, I guess it's like the biggest spot for non-union jobs. So it's, the pay wouldn't be as good, but I'm sure there would still be something that would,
Well, what about no? But since it's just voice, you could send it to an agent in California or Chicago too. I think that they have big agents and voiceovers in Chicago, which is not far from you.
Did you ever? I don't think I saw anything, but did you ever do?
I've always wanted to do a cartoon voice. Like I've auditioned a few times, and I'd love to do that too. I mean, I'd love to. Like it'd be so fun. I've done voiceovers. I don't know. I don't like. I never booked the job, for some reason. But I don't know. I'd love to get a voice in a cartoon or something. Be fun.
There was just one role I didn't ask you about that I can't imagine has been brought up. I used to have the VHS of Off the Wall.
Oh gosh, what one is that?
That's with Patrick Cassidy and Paul Sorvino, and it's like in jail, and you're this like joyriding crazy crime person.
That's another movie I didn't see, and I can't believe I can't remember. I knew that's so funny about Paul Sorvino because since I know Mira, that's so. I never saw that movie, and I got to tell you, I can't even remember what it's about. That's funny. Wow. Yeah, I never saw that. Yeah, that's one of the films I never saw, and I don't even remember. Jeez, a lot of movies I did that I don't remember.
Is there just one of the my final questions, I guess, or one of the second to last things I can ask you, do you have any story, crazy story that you haven't told regarding your career? And
crazy story regarding my career. Well, I guess, no, not really. It's been told, but that the crazy story was the Harvey Weinstein story that I had to hold secret for so many years, afraid to tell anybody that had happened to me.
Yep.
But then that to be able to come out and know that there were so many other women that this happened to, and lives were destroyed and careers were, attempted to be destroyed by a person of power, to be able to do that. It was, I have to say, important for us all to be able to do and say, this happens, and it happens daily, and it continues to happen in this business. And a lot of people abuse their power, and hopefully one of the most significant things I've done in my whole life and career is being a part of the movement that exposed this.
right.
So that doesn't happen to other women and young boys and girls. Young girls and boys is what I mean to say, is that it happens all the time. And a lot of people are very threatened and angry about that. And a price has been paid to expose that and bring that to light to that darkness that exists in Hollywood and in all businesses. But It's enough. Enough is enough. We just have to, we've got to change this now, because it's damaging people's lives, and basically we've had enough. So that was a really important, because I lived with that for a really long time, and there were many people that I had told through the years, so that finally when it came out, they said, I remember when you said that. I remember when you told me that. So yeah, I was, but nothing really significant or funny. I wish there was something that there's nothing that I can think of right now. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So.
When I was talking to Joyce, I know she was really good friends with Dorothy Stratten, since they did that movie together with Peter Bogdanovich. And did you ever meet her? Or
I did not, but I do remember Joyce and how horrible that was for her, because it was a terrible, terrible tragedy.
Did you and Joyce? How did you guys meet each other back then?
We met each other years ago in a cafe. Did she tell you is a place called Cafe Central? And she used to be she's the one girlfriend of Bruce Springsteen for many years. And so and I just remember she was just had these boots over her knee, and she had this cute hat. She was absolutely she looked like Natalie Wood. She was beautiful and funny, and we immediately hit it off. And so I met her when I was 21.
Okay.
It's funny because we keep writing, we'll text each other. We haven't seen each other this year. It's so awful. We've been all in quarantine. It's and now that I think I think I hope she's got her vaccinated, but we're going to see each other soon, I hope. Because, we're very close. So we just haven't seen each other. She's done such extraordinary work with her foundation. And, we both I just had to fold my foundation, but I do have the Alexis Arquette. It was the Alexis Arquette Family Foundation, which was my trans sister, Alexis, who died.
Right.
It will be 5 years, September 11th. So on behalf of the family, I started a foundation called the Alexis Arquette Family Foundation and partnered with Dr. Astrid Hagar of the Violence Intervention Program down in Los Angeles. She's a child abuse doctor. And we now have a clinic called the Alexis Project, which is at USC Medical Center for the LGBTQ youth. And I had to fold the foundation during this time because it's really hard to have nonprofits right now. But it ended up being really okay. The money that I had in there, I completely donated to the Alexis Project. And now I'm on the board of the Alexis Project. So it's all good.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
So is there any kind of role that you still hope to play at this point that you haven't yet?
Oh, I just keep seeing these extraordinary performances of things like, and I'm just like, I love Frances McDormand. I really love this movie, No Man of Land, and I love the direction of it. And I thought like that kind of role of just somebody, just all this silent time, personal, private moments, just filming private moments and being able to do that on film. I'd love to be able to do some, like nobody could do that movie like Frances McDormand, but I'm just saying a role like that, like a role where you have all this silent time that's not just dialogue, it's just within, and you're seeing the inner life of somebody and their struggle, and there's in the silence there's so much. I'd love to have a role like that. Yeah,
I think it's interesting because I saw another early interview where you said that you failed your driver's test for the first time, and that tests make you nervous. So I think it's interesting that you have the career that you have.
Oh yeah, it is. It does. I mean, I'm a wreck going to having auditions. I just literally will sometimes just if I have to audition for something, then I just feel so nervous about it. I'm not great. I wasn't good at tests. I was not good at the written. Yeah, like I passed it finally, but I was just freaked out. And then the guy sitting there and watching your every move, just a nervous wreck. But I've turned into a pretty good driver, I have to say. Although I do have like a little couple bangs on my car from backing up into a wall, but other than that, I'm okay. I don't crash into people. So
I like to end every interview I do with asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, probably my activism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think ultimately that's the most important thing, is like giving back to society and caring about other human beings, and equality and justice. Really important to me. I think we're seeing right now, and you're living in the town right now with this trial that's happening right now, George Floyd, and that must have been really intense to be living there. But just that, there's footage. We see this man, he abused his power. He's a police officer and he murdered him. And it's like, there's no way this guy should get off. I mean, if he does, I really fear for the world, I have to say. It's just not going to be good. It's just like, it's not going to be good. This is like, this is justice needs to be served, and we have to do something here. And I actually have a lot of fear about them trying to even think about getting this guy not being punished for something that the whole world saw.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I would say my work as an activist, and which was there way before Harvey Weinstein. I've always been one, and everybody in my family is. So I think that's the most real important thing in life. The other stuff, acting is just my job. I've been really fortunate for the most part to make a decent, okay living on it. Definitely few and far between these days, but that's just the way it is. Anyway, for so many people. I just recently just getting ready to direct a movie and just going through the list of the people that are quote unquote bankable. And I don't want to say the actresses they're not, but I'm going to tell you they're like some of the best, most extraordinary actresses we have, and they don't mean anything in terms of financing. It's like, what? How is that possible? But and you could, and some of them like won an Oscar a couple of years ago. It's like ridiculous, and so you can't believe what that is. And so I think what we're seeing is this whole shift in the business anyway, where people are making their own content. They're making their own art. They're making their own films. I don't think we're going to be relying on the studio system as much as everybody thinks in the future. People are able to grab a camera, make their own art, and get it out there. And that's what I think the future is going to be, is just creating your own content, making it, and, putting it online and finding an audience that in that way. I think as much as I love sitting in a movie theater, that certainly has changed. I don't see going to a huge concert like Coachella for a really long time, if ever. I hope we do, but this year has rocked all of our lives, all of us, and it must really be hard for your age, because I kids who are going to school online. I mean, it's really it's a time of change, so we have to take this time, and I hope everybody got something from it in a positive way, where they got to. We had to, by going within and living in our homes, we've had to go really within and look at what works in your life, what friends are just like fair weather friends, are who's really important in your life, and get rid of all the bullshit and get back to being, a real human being and care about other human beings. That's the bottom line.
Well, thanks. This was fun for me to get to do something that people really haven't done before with you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And I really appreciate it. And I hope you get to do everything that you want in your life and use that incredible baritone voice. Okay.
Yeah.